the very first episode of Storytime, Becoming Your Hero, where we tell stories and we talk about them, all in an effort to help you become the greatest version of yourself. Okay, today I want to talk about the septic nature of self-focus and the healing properties of caring for others. But before we begin, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So my name is Matt. I was born with a deadly lung disease called cystic fibrosis. Every moment of every day of my life since birth has been attacked by this disease. I'm not going to lie to you, there's been some tough times, but there have been people in my life who taught me how to live vibrantly despite those difficult circumstances. And my dream for you is that you would overcome your difficult circumstances and live in that same way. None of us need to adopt unhealthy, destructive coping mechanisms like smoking. God forbid I would ever do something stupid like that. Okay, all jokes aside, if you want to hear more about my story, you can check out our website, thezerotoheroclub.com. It's all there. So, once upon a time, there was a beautiful lake. You thought I was going to say lady, didn't you? I know. Anyways, this lake had a waterfall feeding it and a beautiful river flowing out of it on the other side. Now something happened and the waterfall got cut off and there was no more water being poured into the lake. And after some time, the sun evaporated the water to the point where there was no flow out of the lake either, and it just became a stagnant pool. And eventually, the vegetation began to rot. The fish died. It became a breeding ground for mosquitoes and leeches and various other insects, and the water became septic. Not only did it transform from its kind of oasis nature, life-giving nature, but it actually turned into something that more promoted dishealth, sickness, even death. We all have a lake inside us, and we all have rivers that flow in and flow out. But sometimes we can choose to stop the flow of that river in and become septic ourselves, where there's just an internal swirling of dishealth, and eventually things start to rot and become sickly. So I want to tell you a little story about how I learned that as a kid, kind of subconsciously. So when I was a little boy, I would go to the doctor every few months, as was required for somebody with a terminal illness like me. I still do. And those visits often involved being prodded and poked with various different things, needles and a whole bunch of other uncomfortable things. And when you're a little kid and you're continuously going into an environment where you're gonna experience pain, there can be a really deep-seated fear inside you. It can be pretty scary. And what ends up happening is you develop a mental state where you're continuously thinking about what's going to happen to you, how your environment, if I can use adult words, how your environment is going to affect you. But of course, as a kid, that's not how I thought about it. I was just always scared. This isn't fair. Why is this happening to me? How come this doesn't happen to other people? I don't want to do this. I hate this. I, me. And the thoughts are always revolving around myself. Now, that's not necessarily wrong. In fact, those thoughts are probably true. But I want to talk about the destructive nature of those cycling thoughts, just like that cesspool, that stagnant lake of circling dishealth. The more and more that I would focus on how things were affecting me, what was going to happen to me, I would get sicker, I would feel more pain, my anxiety levels would go through the roof. And overall, my overall health, mentally, physically, was in a unfortunate state. It wasn't good. But I would go into those patient waiting rooms where I was about to experience that painful procedure. And there'd be a bunch of other kids in there about to experience the same thing or things very similar. And I'd have something in me that would want to comfort them. And so I would go over and because I had experienced it before, I would say, don't worry, just as a little kid would, don't worry, it's going to be okay. You know, and I didn't understand the profound value that was actually having on my health. There's something happens inside us it's really special when we experience pain in the same way that somebody else is, but we choose to move it aside and help them. There's something really profound about the health, the inflow of that waterfall, that new river into your lake. There's something about that happens when you flow out to other people, if I can use that lake analogy. When there's a river flowing into you and a river flowing out of you, and you use that outflow river to comfort people and care for people who are going through the same stuff as you. When you put yourself aside, there's an incredible health that pours into you, if that makes sense. And so when I was a kid, I would be caring for people, and I would actually start to notice that my health over time would get better. And not only that, but I would go and experience those painful procedures and discover that they weren't that bad afterwards, that they didn't hurt as much as I would think, because I removed my focus on how bad I thought it was, how bad I thought my life was, and I focused on someone else. And I think there's a really profound principle there with that inflow and that outflow. I could take the river that was inside me and pour it into somebody else's lake. And while I did that, I'd pour fresh life into them, but at the same time, there was a draining of any septic nature that was within myself. And of course, I've developed language for that as I'm older. As a kid, that's not how I thought. I didn't think about that. I just noticed that I felt better. And I'm sure you've noticed that in your own life. And so I want to encourage you that we don't need to stay in that septic cycle of self-thought. Those thoughts might be legitimate. They might be very true. And it's true that you don't deserve pain, and it's true that it's okay to feel those things. But what I'm suggesting is to make a choice to actually put your right for comfort aside and actually choose to pour into other people's lives. So thank you for watching. I want to encourage you that there's so much fresh water available for you. And oddly enough, the fresh water begins to flow when you pour out your own water into other people's lakes. It's a bit of a mysterious thing, and it has to do with actually the law of investment, or some refer to it as the law of sowing and reaping, not to be confused for the law of attraction, which is a different thing, which I'll probably talk about another time. But there's this thing that happens when we invest in someone else. There's actually, when we plant those seeds of health in other people, there's actually a return of health towards us. Excuse me. And so I wanted to encourage you today that reality, that investment, that pouring in of health into others and that receiving of health for you is completely available, and it's available right now. You can have it, and you can go for it. And you have there's a strength within you to go and seize those things for your life. So thank you so much for listening. I bless you guys with whatever nuggets were in there for you. Take what you like, throw away what you didn't like, and stay tuned next time when we talk about the deadly nature of habits and how they can kill you. The Zero to Hero Club is dedicated to inspire and change the lives of those dealing with hard circumstances. We aspire to see you live vibrantly and become the true hero you really are, so you can be that, overcome, and change the world. Come join the club at thezerotoheroclub.com. Let's write history.